Welcome to a lecture series on tourism. Time zones are an important aspect in travel and tourism, especially in intercontinental travel. In this module, we will analyze this interesting concept and examine how it influences travel involving many countries. We will classify it under the following heads, namely time zone, an overview, history of timekeeping, the International Meridian Conference 1884, time zones in the 20th century, daylight saving time. We hope it gives you an overall perspective of this complex subject and enables you to understand and appreciate its critical role.
Time zones, an overview. Let us begin with a basic definition of time zones. A time zone is an area on Earth which has the same standard time for legal, commercial, and social purposes. Geographically, the Earth is longitudinally divided into many time zones, each with a uniform time of its own. Each zone is 15 degrees of longitude in width with local variations and observes a clock time which is 1 hour earlier than the time zone directly to the east. In other words, local time is 1 hour ahead of each time zone as one travels towards east and 1 hour behind for each time zone as one travels west. The International Meridian Conference in 1884 established the prime meridian as the starting point and divided the Earth into 24 time zones. However, the number of standard time zones is debatable and discussed among various sources, particularly with regards to the international dateline. The prime meridian is basically a line of longitude which is reckoned to be the 0 degrees, and the meridian opposite to the prime meridian on the globe is the 180 degrees in a 360-degree system, which divides the Earth into two hemispheres, eastern and western. In other words, this 180th meridian or the anti-meridian is the meridian which is 180 degrees east or west of the prime meridian. The International Meridian Conference 1884 decided the prime meridian passed through the Royal Observatory, Greenwich, in southeast London in the UK. Thus, the prime meridian came to be known as the International Meridian or the Greenwich Meridian. Similarly, the conference decided that the 180th meridian will be used as the basis for reckoning the date, and hence it was referred to as the International Dateline, where the travelers change date. Traveling eastward across the line, one subtracts 1 calendar day. Traveling westward, one adds a day. The date is necessary to avoid confusions that would otherwise result. History of timekeeping. Before clocks were invented, people reckoned time by watching the movement and position of the sun with the help of devices like the sundial. Many cities across the world historically kept their own time by using some type of instrument to observe the sun's zenith at noon. The earliest time measuring devices used either the sun's shadow or the rate in which water or sand flows out of a vessel. The pendulum clock was developed during the 17th century. These clocks were sufficiently accurate to be used at sea to determine longitude and for scientific time measurement in the 18th century. English horologist John Harrison proved in 1764 that a clock could be used to locate a ship's position at sea with extraordinary accuracy. Chronometers, which measure time accurately in spite of motion or varying conditions, became popular instruments among many merchant mariners during the 19th century Still, even after developments regarding longitude, many towns and cities set clocks based on sunsets and sunrises. Dawn and dusk occur at different times, but time differences between distant locations were barely noticeable prior to the 19th century because of long travel times and the lack of long-distance communications. The use of local solar time became increasingly awkward as railways and telecommunications improved. Time zones were therefore a compromise, relaxing the complex geographical dependence while still allowing local time to be approximate with mean solar time. Challenges in the 19th century. Trade, communications and transport became more globalized during the 19th century, which made it necessary that all maps and charts should indicate the same longitudes in whichever country they were produced, as being so many degrees east or west of a prime meridian. Moreover, the international telegraph needed at least a single standard to which all local times could be referred. The first person to propose a worldwide system of time zones was the Italian mathematician Quirico Filopanti in his book Miranda, published in 1858. However, his idea was unknown outside the pages of his book until long after death. Therefore, it did not influence the adoption of time zones during the 19th century. Filopanti proposed 24 hourly time zones, which he called longitudinal days. The first one centered on the meridian of Rome. He also proposed a universal time to be used in astronomy and telegraphy. Canadian Sir Sandford Fleming proposed a worldwide system of time zones in 1879 that we use today. He was one of the key players in developing a globally acceptable system of timekeeping. He advocated the adoption of a standard or mean time and hourly variations from that in accordance with established time zones. He recommended that the world be divided into 24 time zones, each spaced 15 degrees of longitude apart. Since the Earth rotates once every 24 hours and there are 303 degrees of longitude, each hour the Earth rotates 1/24th of a circle or 15 degrees of longitude. Sir Fleming's time zones were hailed as a brilliant solution to a chaotic problem worldwide. He also helped convene the International Meridian Conference in 1884, where the International Standard Time System was adopted. However, once railroads began to operate and move people rapidly across great distances, time became much more critical. In the early years of the railroads, the schedules were very confusing because each stop was based on a different local time. The standardization of time was essential to efficient operation of rails. United States railroad companies began utilizing Fleming's standard time zones on November 18, 1883. In 1884, an International Prime Meridian Conference was held in Washington, D.C. to standardize time and select the prime meridian. The conference selected the longitude of Greenwich, England as 0 degrees longitude and established the 24 time zones based on the prime meridian. American railroads maintained many different time zones during the late 1800s. Each train station set its own clock, so it was difficult to coordinate train schedules. Time calculation became a serious problem for people traveling by train, sometimes hundreds of miles in a day, according to the Library of Congress. Every city in the United States used a different time standard, so there were more than 300 local sun times to choose from. Railroad managers tried to address the problem by establishing 100 railroad time zones, but this was only a partial solution to the problem. Operators of the new railroad lines needed